Oi, oi, it's your boy, the Erebus and terror of entering the Machida era, Jack Slack. It's the Jack Slack Boicast, episode 5. How have we done 5 Boycasts already? Um, but today's episode is going to be sort of a continuation of Monday's episode, which was making up for the lack of UFC and Bellator quality matchmaking and card making with, I'm alchemizing shit into gold here. So we'll probably do some more of those questions that people left me later in the episode. We will touch on these god-awful cards, but I thought I'd lead with something that surprised me, much like it surprised me last week, the Contender series. And the Contender, we talked about it last week, but the Contender series is a little bit of a mixed bag for me because it's sort of like when World Championship Letway, or whatever they called themselves, were doing those events on Fight Pass, and you were like, damn, that's cool, I get to watch a Letway. But then you realise that everyone on the card is broke and fighting for pennies, even though the organisation is being paid by the UFC, presumably, to run these events for Fight Pass. And the Contender Series is kind of like that, obviously. It's quite interesting because they have basically signed almost everyone, unless you put in a really wrestling-heavy performance like this poor lad, Mo Miller, who won the co-main event on this week, but wrestled too much, so they were like, no, we don't want you. But basically, they've signed almost everyone, and that that makes you think that they just really need as many fighters as possible, which could work to the fighters' benefit if they recognised that, but they haven't yet. However, some pleasant surprises on this card. I've got to say, the main one I'm going to recommend everyone check out is this lad, Jack Della Madelena. There we go, got it right. And subsequently, I will not get it right any other times. But he was really good fun. He fought a guy called Angelusa, African by way of Switzerland, I believe. Or they've got him as fighting out of Switzerland on his Tapology. But Jack Della Madelena really impressed me in this one. Really nice boxing. And striking generally, actually. But he was striking really well from orthodox through the first round. About midway through the first round, he switched to southpaw, and you realised that he was going to be fighting mainly southpaw, which is a really nice way to introduce it. I think that's how Ortega did. I've been rewatching the Korean Zombie one, and he does come out orthodox, and then he switches to southpaw, almost like to confirm what you were preparing for, and then go, nah, not actually. But yeah, Della Maddalena, really fun, throwing great right hooks from both orthodox and southpaw. And the right hook, the orthodox right hook, is a tricky punch because the opportunities aren't often there. It's more useful to throw an overhand because you can arc it over the lead shoulder. But no, he's throwing these right hooks with the elbow quite tight and sending his man stumbling with it. And he was doing things like stepping inside, coming with a left uppercut from orthodox, and then a right hook, and then circling off in southpaw, and then coming back in again southpaw. It was really nice. And from southpaw, he was landing good open side counters, dropping away from Luce's right straight and coming with the left straight over the top in combinations. And lots of combination work. He was going like jab, right hook right hook to the body, or jab, right hook, left hook to the body. It just really lovely stuff, working him up and down. And the thing that really stood out was his comfort under fire and his head movement. He was really good at just being a little bit out of the way, moving in that way where it's not like you're moving as fast as possible, but you're moving fairly lazily, it looks like, but you're timing everything really well. And then when he got taken down in the first round, he immediately he turned his back to Turtle, started building up, trapped the arm, performed a roll through. The guy stayed with him, and then he came up again and turned back into him on basically like, if you watched pro wrestling, a sidewalk slam. The old Sakui Nagi, as it was in judo, but I think they changed the name. Or they, a modern Sakui Nagi is a much more useful throw that you actually see people use a lot. It's very rare to see someone do that in judo. But yeah, he did it twice in the course of this fight. did slow down a bit. He got taken down, and his guard was not nearly as impressive. Like his, when I say guard, I'm not expecting someone to throw up submissions effectively in MMA because that doesn't happen. What I'm saying is like he wasn't that good at actively pummeling hooks, getting off his back. Ended up getting arm triangled from Mount, I think it was, and basically just sort of like, answered the telephone, the classic defense, and bucked his way out of it and came up on towards the guy's back. First 2 rounds, Della Madelena was teeing off, looked absolutely fantastic in the process. He's checking kicks, he's throwing his own kicks, and then the 3rd round he just sort of hits a wall. It's quite interesting because he's not, like, looking back at his career, they were making a big deal about how he never goes to the 3rd round, but looking at his career, he went to the 3rd round once in his very first fight where he lost in that 3rd round. He lost his 2nd fight as well, so he was 0-2 as a professional, and he's really rebounded well from there. And he stopped everyone he's fought except this fight, so he ended up in the 3rd round again. It's got to be a little bit daunting. Obviously you're training to do more than that, but training and fighting are very, very different. So to be in the 3rd round again for the first time since that time that you lost in your very first fight, it's got to be quite daunting. But yeah, he won the decision. I think they gave him the contract, which is good. But definitely worth a watch if you like your smooth boxing in an MMA context. And it just goes to show that having no cartilage left in your nose is the best base for MMA. Don't know what to expect from him, in the wider welterweight division, but I'm sure there's plenty of guys there he can beat. Certainly with a more full-time professional training schedule. And another talent out of the Antipodes, out of Oceania or Australasia, depending on what century we're in. What else was good on this card? There were some other things that stood out to me. Fucking Lucas Brzezski and Dylan Potter, Contender Series heavyweights. That's all you need to know about that. Everyone was hot on Albert Duraev because he was I presume, Dagestani, who beat up Kaya Bittencourt. Basically, what you know what to expect from a Dagestani wrestler. Takes him down at the fence, tries to sit on the legs, ended up sitting on one leg, at the ankle, Habib style, and Bittencourt had coiled his other leg into his body and was sort of tipping on his side to try and keep it away from Duraev, to stop him sitting on both legs and stopping Bittencourt from moving and attempting to either get up or replace guard. And Duraev did a really cool thing, which no one on the commentary booth pointed out, but I'm going to point out to you now. Instead of trying to straighten out the other leg or pull it back towards him, he dug his hand inside it, so arm inside the hip, or inside the thigh rather, into an over-under passing position. But he didn't want to pass, he was looking for a dog bar, or over-under knee bar, whatever you want to call it. But from that position, the over-under pass is where you have one leg between your legs and you have the underhook on the other leg, and you basically straighten that leg out and then you kick your leg over. There's who's been good at it? Bernardo Faria, probably the best recent guy with it. Jake Shields did pretty well with it in MMA, with a variation of it. But yeah, it's a really interesting guard pass because it sort of kills a lot of your opponent's options defensively. So it's not like you're guaranteed to pass their guard, but what you can do if your guy... Murillo Santana is another one. But what you can do is just keep getting up onto your feet, pressing into their midsection and grinding on them for however long you are intending to grapple. But if you get their leg straight and you caught it behind your own leg, as Duraev already had, you can belly down, and basically because their straightened leg is on the back of your calf, you can belly down and the calf will elevate the foot, but your belly will push the knee into the floor. You see guys get caught with it, and even at the high levels, they're still quite surprised a lot of the time. But it's quite cool because you don't have an awful lot of submission attacks while you're passing guard, and it's a very legit one. You can fuck someone's leg up. Problem was that Bittencourt had turned sort of onto his side, so the knee bar was working against the side of his knee, where he had a lot of, his knee could go flat to the mat and his ankle could be elevated quite comfortably. But it was a cool look. And then it was just more well, I want to say classic sort of Dagestani wrestling, but it was kind of strange because he let the guy get up just to sort of throw him past and get towards his back. Jurayev managed to get the the Dagestani handcuff, the arm behind the back trap, whatever you want to call it, but he got it. And then he started sort of like, his head was against Bittencourt's, and he's basically jerking off this dude's cheek. It's about 2 inches range of motion. But he's making a good slapping sound. And Sanko and Bisping were genuinely like, stop the damn fight. It's just... Sanko's like, oh my God. And Bisping goes, oh, I mean, they're short shots, but they can add up. They're on your jawline. And it was doing nothing. But eventually, Bittencourt gives his back, and then he gets finished with a neck crank. Just didn't look like he wanted to be there after the sort of first minute and a half. So everyone's very hot on Jurayev. I wasn't super impressed because I didn't think a lot of Bittencourt, but yeah, I mean, another fun Russian wrestler in the middleweight division. Honestly, if there's a division that could use some fucking grapplers, it's the middleweight division. Then Mo Miller won a fight but didn't get the contract, which was sad. And then in the main event, now this is weird because like I was enjoying this and then I checked what weight class it was and I went, ooh, enjoying a light heavyweight main event. Couldn't be me. But I did. Jailton Almeida and Nasruddinov, so his dad is also named Nasruddin. Yeah, Almeida blew my socks off with this one. Came out immediately, took this guy down, Nasrudov, Russian grappler. Shouldn't shoot on him immediately, and he did. Ended up on the bottom in half guard, but reached around Nasrudov's back, and basically he got the arm behind, the Dagestani handcuff, as we're supposed to be calling it nowadays. But he got it from the bottom, a position that I think Neil Melanson calls the kingpin, which you can do from like the guard and use it to set up attacks, but he had it from the bottom, and he also had like sort of the knee torque that Lucas Leitch uses in the half guard, and unfortunately he was stuck against the fence, so he couldn't start scooping underneath the guy and rolling him over, but he eventually used it to sort of come up and start wrestling again, which was great because he'd shot and then ended up on the bottom, and then he was just like, no, I'm here to get on top. He didn't sort of give up on it. Oh, he got Uchimated in the first instance. He tried for a takedown, and the guy basically did what Habib did to Rafael dos Anjos, which is take the wizard, turn in, hit the inside thigh throw, and just spin him over. But when he came back up, he was on the body lock. He started working around to the guy's back, as you will see hundreds of times in MMA now. The guy kept the whizzer, the overhook, and he did a really interesting thing, Jailton Almeida. So when guys start moving around to the back, they're often trying to put in that hook that's on the front side, the leg that's on the front side. He put his foot behind the guy's opposite foot and sort of pulled it forwards, so the guy took a step, and then he circled around behind him and dumped him again. It was a really cool little sequence. And then he hopped on his back, started trying to choke his face, which is always a good chance to take in MMA. Before you can get the hooks in, just punch your arm across their face and start trying to choke them. And then throw your hooks in while they spaz out. But he ended up getting turned over again. That's one of the big disadvantages of back control. And that's why you'll see a lot of these very good wrestlers, particularly from Dagestan, but also from AKA, they will stick to back control, as in the back body lock, without their hooks in, until they're very confident they can get the stoppage. They will beat guys up from there and tire them out. Islam Makhachev in his last one against Thiago Moises basically didn't get on the back until very late. It was quite a boring fight because he just sort of held back clinch, but that's because, you got an example of it earlier in the fight when Almeida ran to Islam Makhachev's back, jumped on, and then fell over the top of him and lost the rest of the fight. But in this instance, Almeida ended up on the bottom of half guard again, started really digging himself underneath the guy like he was going to come up on a sweep, and the guy sort of sat back, and Almeida just popped his knee through and went back to full guard. Beautiful stuff. Started attacking a heel hook and used it to turn the guy away, which is what we're always talking about with leg attacks. You can't just sit there. You've got to turn the guy away. And Nasruddinov was standing with his hands on the fence, looking back at him. And as he started to turn out of the heel hook, Jailton Almeida just released it and put his feet back in front of the guy. So he spun, tried to come back in, and there was a foot in his belly. It was really nice. And I was watching that going, this dude is playing guard really well. What division is this? And then I found out it was 205, and I was just like, what on earth is going on? Second round starts. Nasruddinov tries to flying knee Almeida in the head. Almeida grabs a hold of him with the body lock, takes him down again, gets on his back, has a lot of trouble finishing, which is always tough in big gloves. And then what he does is he turns belly down, so he turns them both belly down, stretches Nasruddinov out, and then immediately punches the hand through for the choke again. Classic way of finishing people in both gi and no gi and MMA. But you just saw the difference. The guy was in very little trouble when Almeida was on his back normally, and then that quick turn down, bellied out position, belly them out on their own hands, so that they're like their chest is on their hands, they can't get to their neck. Really easy to punch the choke in from there for Almeida. So I was really impressed by this lad. Very, very excited for his future. So a quick rundown of the weekend's cards, because they aren't great.